Boom, and go live. One sec. Go live. There we go. And we are live. Okay, cool.
Live?
We're live. Yeah. And we can always cut this off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to the intro cutscene. And we are live now. Let's go to the webcams. Oi, you see, we can do this. Oi, welcome to the live stream, yo. Oi.
Okay, stop, because people aren't going to realise that you're being ironic. Are you being ironic?
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Do you even know? Do you even know anymore?
What is irony?
Don't know. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the problem with online learning, and this
Good
comes
topic.
Well, okay, this comes from that Adam and I, yeah, we teach online, but that's because of COVID. Normally we teach in a classroom. We are also both people that have studied online in video streaming websites like, I don't know, LinkedIn Learning, School of Motion, Domestika, Digital Tutors, all of that. And we've got a few thoughts about what it means to try to educate yourself online. And that's what we're talking about in this stream today.
Yeah, it's not about slacking off online learning, is it? It's about maybe highlighting some of the pros and cons, and specifically what what we've learned from teaching, and the sort of problems that our students have had, and they've been, their learning, everyone's learning journey is slightly different, especially nowadays when there's a mixture of traditional universities, colleges, stuff like that with online learning. So people have very different learning journeys, and it might involve a mixture of online learning, self teaching, and we just thought it would be helpful to talk about it.
Absolutely.
And given that we're halfway through a course at the moment, so a lot of this stuff's referenced. So yeah, do you wanna kick off, Ed?
Sure. I suppose I'd like to talk a bit about how it is to teach yourself online. I am a Cinema 4D tutor, but I taught myself using Grayscale Gorilla back in 2009 is when I learned Cinema 4D. It didn't answer all the questions, and I don't think you can rely on any one video channel to answer all of those questions. But if you compare what Nick was doing with Grayscale Gorilla back in the day, which was to really try and put his love of photography into this program that he was learning, and he would have like 40 minutes where he was completely flummoxed by an issue, and this was all going out, and he didn't edit it out. But it was still kind of useful to see someone sort of work it out. And you compare that to like a more traditional art school where they hardly teach you the software. They don't really give you many clues, but they're more interested in your actual ideas and your output and what films you're going to make with it. They don't really care how you use the software. I think if you know that you just need to learn that software to get a job, I think that's kind of where we're at with most of the offerings that are online at the moment. It's almost like this funnel towards work, especially in motion design. Motion design seems to be like the tip of the freelance iceberg. It's really weird. I think there's a weird messaging there. So people get the impression that they can go onto YouTube and learn this stuff on their own and then start getting jobs. And I don't want to disabuse anyone of that notion. You can do that, but you have to be good, right? And how do you know what good is unless there's a sort of some sort of metric?
Well, what's the metric? I suppose it's whether you get hired or whether you get hired again. Is that how you know? Or do you need someone of elevated status, such as you or me? Some arbitrary designators of worth to go. You are good enough to be. You've reached that level yet.
Well, put this way, I think the way that you learn when you don't have a tutor and when you don't have someone advising you is that you learn through emulation. You know, you emulate the things that you like. And I think whereas you could get to the point where you know enough about the software to go, oh, it's probably that plugin or it's probably a mixture of these techniques, you never really touch on why you're doing it or what the point is or what the artist is trying to achieve. You never really sort of, I don't think you have enough background information to crack that on your own.
Well, isn't emulation's very easy though, when you don't have to do the whole creation journey of what that concept is up to that point, the interpreting of the brief. Because I mean, I do that. I'm sort of constantly seeing stuff on on TV or online, and I think, oh, that'll make a good thing to teach the students. And that's all very well and good, but what you miss by doing that, and I'm not slacking off emulation or however you want to call it, ripping stuff off as a sort of as a learning, as a learning curve, but it's easy to copy a technique when it's in front of you. It's harder to trace the whole journey and go from a blank page or a brief to that point.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what my point was. I think it was just me wanging on, for a certain
Fine.
period of time.
I think because I see a lot of people on Twitter, particularly, going, "You do not need to go to art school." And I can see in America where it's likely to get you in a lifetime of crippling debt. It probably isn't worth studying the arts. But then, why study anything? Why do philosophy if you're going to get into crippling debt? I kind of think the point that I'm making is that with university, it's almost about the things that you're not being taught, isn't it? Universities, it's you're growing up, you're in the shared environment. You're not just learning the thing that is on the title of your degree. You're learning the background of stuff, and I don't know. I've never studied motion design at a degree level, and we certainly don't teach it at a degree level. But I get the impression that you don't need to know about Saul Bass. You don't need to know about Oscar Fischinger to do good motion graphics. And I think most motion designers probably wouldn't know that stuff anyway themselves. But what you do need to know is why stuff is good. Why is something better than something else? And I think when you make your own work and it's just based on literally copying someone's line style and color choices, you don't know why they made those color choices. They could come back to you and go, oh no, I just sampled all of the colours out of this Monet painting. Without that context, your copy is absolutely facile, you know? But yeah, I don't think you need to do anything in order to get work, but I don't think getting work should be the end goal. And I think getting work is kind of... You know what I mean? I think getting work has kind of perverted the motion graphics scene a bit. You know what I mean? It's not just about getting work.
I'm just for all the people who don't know, I'm just laughing that could be your catchphrase. Getting work shouldn't be the end goal. You're living proof of that. Of that philosophy, aren't you?
I mean, for ages I was saying like learn how to say no. Now I'm learning how to say yes.
Oh no, I think I think your landlord's been trying to drum that into you, clearly.
Yeah.
So if someone because I suppose we do have someone watching this, they might feel like, well, these guys have got a drum to beat because they teach. But just playing devil's advocate, if someone were to say, I want to learn motion design, but I don't want to take your course, I don't want to pay. Could they learn online without taking a course?
It sounds really horrible to say this, but the good ones can do what they want. The good ones can take whatever path because they're the good ones. So, what I mean by that is someone who...
You can always get better, though, can't you?
Oh, yeah. But yeah. I kind of think that someone who just wants to get freelance work doing After Effects can learn online and get work doing After Effects jobs.
Why did you limit it to After Effects? is that because of your healthy disdain for After Effects? Because
Just
you're a cinema,
I'm,
because you're a Cinema 4D.
I'm just trying to keep my sentences shorter. I should have said
Right.
C3.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, fine.
Yeah. Exactly.
Fine.
Yeah.
Um, if your end goal is to get work, great. But if your end goal is to progress as an artist and try and find out what you're about a bit, then you need to be making work that isn't commercial. That's
Well,
just
in that
a given.
case, in that case, don't seek out any work at all. You know, and then develop and become the best. You know,
I'm
an
I'm
amazing motion designer.
I'm totally for this. Motion design shouldn't be just purely commercial, and yet weirdly we've had this hijack of you want to get a job, you want to make money in NFTs, you want to, you know what I mean? Like it's all about like you're not as good at being like commercial sort of happy capitalist as you should be. And I'm saying, well, fuck being a happy capitalist. I'd much rather be good at my job or good at my art.
Okay, so if money wasn't a factor, well, this may be a facile question. If money wasn't a factor, what would you be doing with your time?
Yeah. If money wasn't a factor, I would love to be making longer form animation. You know, I think
Right.
the
So
idea.
narrative driven content.
Oh
So
yeah,
short, you know, yeah, yeah.
making your own like Johnny Bravo or Powerpuff Girls or something, or you know Rick and Morty. Don't you think that would probably be the best job in the world, or even South Park? You know what I mean? You get to hear the most offensive jokes that don't make it to the screen, but you know what I mean. I think working on animation would be the end goal of a lot of people that work in
Mm.
motion design. I feel like motion design is a bit of a catch-all for people that don't work in animation for whatever reason.
Well, for better or worse, I suppose for us being teachers who get paid to teach, for better, there are people who do want to learn motion design as a means to an end. Well, actually, motion design being a means to an end, and apparently doing the sort of work that some people, such as yourself, you know, look down on, you know, the bread and butter work. But you know, some people feel, you know,
I've just
feel
eaten
that's like
enough.
an appealing career.
I've had enough bread and butter in this one lifetime. I feel like I've just been fattened up on bread and butter, and now I want
Okay.
some substance. Now I want the foie gras. You know?
I'm reining you back in because the title of this video is the problem with online learning, not the problem with Ed's career. So we need to drag it back on topic.
They are intrinsically linked. Okay, I kind of
Mm.
I do want to address one point, which is the promise of freelance success. And this is probably more pernicious with the Instagram ads that you'll get, which are like, "Hey, you know what you're not doing correctly? I'm Mr. Guru. You don't know who the hell I am, but hey, I can make you an amazing motion designer." Pew pew pew. And the whole thing is that they're trying to get you into a position where clients are calling you up for client work ultimately, and I think that's what really bothers me about it is that I'm competing against someone who's done it for 6 weeks. Now if they're really good, no issue,
Mm.
but I hate this. Like, I think it's a bit of a corruption to say you've just done this for 0 hours and there's plenty of work out there, you deserve a slice of that pie, rather than people going, I want to get myself into a position where I feel confident enough to do commercial work or whatever.
But this feels like a whole other video where, you know, because I don't feel, you know, and I have imposter syndrome in all sorts of ways, but I don't have imposter syndrome against someone who has just learnt the latest techniques from some online guru who's going to get hired by an agency, you know, because in that situation,
They took our jobs.
they're just you're just a hired hand, and you're just there to you're like a button pusher. You're there to do a specific technique. So it'll be a storyboard that's already done, frames,
Are you
lock
saying
up,
they're like
everything's already done.
they're like a baby hand compared to your adult hands? Then
Yeah, they're like this hand compared to, you know, this is my sort of
That's
experienced motion designer hand, and
Yeah.
this is their tiny baby. Yeah, no, I mean, it depends what sort of freelancer, you know, if you are going to be a freelancer, it depends what sort of motion design you want to be. Do you want to be someone who can take something from brief to, finished product, or do you want to be someone who can go in and the agency has seen examples of your work and they can go, okay, that person can do this, or this, and that's fine, and we'll get them in to do that.
I just don't see any point in teaching people how to be mediocre motion designers, right?
Well, we're not. Yeah,
And
but we're not. But
ultimately,
you're.
a lot of the podcasts I listen to, it's like, get your work out there, get people to look at you, use LinkedIn, blah blah blah. And I'm not naming names, but I just feel like the whole thing with that is teaching people it's okay to be mediocre. Yes, it is in motion design. You can make money being mediocre, but why would anyone want that? You know?
Do you think that's what they're teaching? I mean, I listen.
Yeah.
I listen to the same. I listen to the same podcasts. Like.
But the quest for excellence is based in understanding of like the rituals, understanding of the technique, where it comes from, the context, and ultimately yourself. If you don't know yourself, then good luck making anything worth watching. I kind of think like
Well,
that's
I think
lacking
those
because
those those podcasts are saying put work out there. They're not saying put mediocre work out there and be
they
celebrated for being mediocre.
in so
Are they?
many ways.
Listen to the same podcasts
And
anyway.
yeah,
I mean,
I'm just saying it gets good enough to get paid and then it stops. If that's where your ambition stops, do something else, you know?
okay, well, we've definitely gone off topic then.
I can't drop my mic because it's got like a pop shield and it's on a little stand. Otherwise, I'd throw it on the floor.
just grab it and slam it on the desk instead. But
Can I just hit it?
okay,
Mic hit. So accountability is one thing that we've got a problem with online learning is one of accountability. So
yeah,
I signed up for a Domestika course. I did about 2/3 of it, and most of that I was like, I won't do the homework bit. I'll just skip on to the next video. And then I got 2/3 of the way through. There was no one watching me, no one helping me, nothing. There was nothing. I get the impression even with courses that have some kind of hired tutor to help you through it, I get the impression that there's a very, very high dropout rate. And why is that?
there is, and I've seen it from. So I did advanced motion methods on School of Motion. Ostensibly as research for for teaching online, but also it's I admire Sanders' work and think it's really good. So all the content is pre-recorded, and but it's what we say to our students. It's that if you just show up and do the lessons where you get taught the techniques, you're not going to progress as much as if you do the work and get feedback on it. You have to get the feedback. So what you're talking about is the quality of the feedback and accountability. I mean, at some point it does have to be up to you as an individual to go. If I want to progress, I have to have the discipline to show my work, get feedback on it. Whether that's offered by the course that you're doing or not, it is with ours. It is with School of Motion. They have TAs giving feedback on it, and from what I can gather, that the feedback is good and specific. But it doesn't have to be. It can be you find someone whose opinion you value and who's good, and get them to give you feedback. Form a group of colleagues and similar, like-minded online learners or whatever, and show your work to each other. That's
Yeah, actually, yeah, we've got a Slack channel that does exactly that, and it is useful. Not that I've posted.
Oh god, we have. Yeah, I wasn't deliberately packing that, but yeah, you're right.
We
try
should probably
feedback,
close
Slack channel,
that down and do a Discord for this. Like, just add it to the million Discords that everyone's on for NFTs or whatever. But I was gonna say there's this big brother, big sister kind of effect when you're a junior at a studio. When you start as a junior, or maybe you've been hired because you're really good, but still there's someone who's a lot better, and you're being asked to do stuff that is a little out of your comfort zone, and you've got someone there who's like, I've done this before, don't do it that way, trust me, it's faster to do it this way. And you just learn so much more, like especially like keyboard shortcuts. You learn like just mad little tricks, you know, like the multi-machine rendering trick with After Effects with a little bit of code in terminal. That kind of thing, you can learn it online. You can learn it
Mm.
from Twitter, but it's so much nicer to have it in the work environment where someone's just like, I can help with that, you know.
Well, you're talking about before times, aren't you?
I
You know,
feel like,
when we record this, agencies start rushing to get back in the office.
yeah,
Who knows when that's going to be? So
I
you've got to find another way, which
that's
is
that's the thing. I just worry that we've got a generation of motion designers that taught themselves online, siloed away from other motion designers of their peer group, and then they started working, which is either remote or freelance remote or whatever. And again, they're on their own, and everyone gets the wobbles, everyone gets anxiety, everyone gets stress. And I worry that there's people who've just never really had that sense of community, who've never really felt like they've had a peer group around them, and there's no one to bounce off. So they might be really talented, but how would they know? They've got no comparison. You know, that's something with online learning that kind of terrifies me a bit.
it definitely drives you when you're in an environment and there's people who are better than you, and and that's why you've always recommended going into an agency and going into a good agency, and even if you're sort of a lowly, whatever you're rotoscoping or whatever it is, you're in the proximity of people who are generally friendly, approachable, willing to give you time if you're not if you're not a knob. Um, and I mean, the thing is, I've seen reels of, and I don't want to sound like some touch old dude, but I am.
We're going to. We can't avoid that.
Yeah.
Let's just
No, okay, let's
lean
embrace
in.
that.
Lean
Let's
in.
lean into
Yeah,
it.
let's.
Yeah.
We're Gandalf now, basically.
There was this really this young whippersnapper, this little, there was this. He was like 17 or 18, and that all of the work he did was, in his bedroom. Uh, nephew of a colleague of mine.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And his reel was like insanely good. And that he's just absorbing stuff online, which is absolutely great. The only thing I'd say, and this isn't me going, oh yeah, but let's see how he does here. The only caveat I'd say is when you're doing self-initiated work without a brief, you can fill your show reel with with great looking stuff, and obviously that's talent and that's technical ability. But the only unknown would be if he was in an environment where you gave him a brief, and they had to take that brief and sort of interpret the brief and sort of come up with something. That's the only unknown. And this isn't me saying, oh, they couldn't do that, but yeah, I mean, based on that show reel, someone learning sort of using their own initiative, online learning without bouncing off other people, presumably, still an amazing show reel. So
I would say,
what do we know?
someone who's like worked and worked and worked and worked has come up against those pitfalls and problems, managed to get around it, and even if they've found their own stupid hacky solutions, like we've got Google now. When you and I started out, Google was way less useful. So I think probably you probably could challenge someone like that. But I do worry about, well, I do wonder about whether if you're trying to make clips for your show reel, then you're like, oh yeah, I want a really good show reel, and hopefully you've got some variety in there. But if you're making clips deliberately for a show reel because you don't have one, I was always really bad at that. I was always really self-conscious about my reel. I think like going to a school or going to a degree course or a longer online course, maybe then you get the variety of clips for your show reel. But
well, I'm sure we'll do showreel tips videos,
yeah,
videos in the future or something, or even if I mean we break down student showreels. If someone had a showreel and they wanted feedback on it, I'm sure we could do that.
yeah,
At some point in these videos, people are they sort of ask people to post questions, or what do you want us to do a future video on? Do we want people to suggest stuff, or do we just want to come up with our own? Do we want to be in our own bubble and just do whatever, talk about whatever we
I
want to talk about?
I sincerely doubt that anyone is going to care what we have to say enough to write a comment. But if anyone does
Good
like us
point.
for whatever reason and wants us to discuss something with our combined 80 million years of experience, then yeah, I'm sure we could cover it. But no one knows
A
who
lot of
I
it.
am, so
A
I'm
lot
just
of lot of irrelevant years.
some obscure old white guy on the internet who's angry about something. I'm just, who the fuck am I?
You do have a lot of anger that you can um bring to the
And a
conversation.
tiny little violin.
Mm.
Um,
Uh, was there anything else on our bullet point list?
yeah. I think
Community. I've got community down here. Have we talked
yes,
about
as
community?
do I.
Mm.
I think we kind of touched on that earlier, in that I don't like the idea of people not having a community while they're learning, not having people to bounce off. Even if it was just a Discord channel filled with random strangers. Even if
Yeah.
you're just like a young artist who wants to make NFTs and cash in big and annoy people like me, you should still have people around you that can go, do you know there's a quicker way of doing that? I think online learning on YouTube is just it's not like it's difficult. You're gonna find videos and channels that appeal to you, but it's
Mm.
about getting that sort of variety of technique and trying to work out what you like the most and then applying it. I mean, surely applying it takes the most time. I could sit here and watch tutorials for hours, but it doesn't mean them actually working, does it? It's quite easy
No,
to watch
you're not.
videos, and there's no one sort of checking what you're doing and going, oh, that's good. Why don't you push it in this direction? So I guess the point I'd rather talk about is feedback, because we love our feedback, don't we, Adam?
We do love feedback, yeah, because it's an excuse for us to wang on as well,
Yeah,
isn't it, and sound knowledgeable. So
a
that's always
bit,
fun.
a little bit,
But
yeah.
it's how, but we'd apply it to ourselves as well, wouldn't we? Like, if you're something you do, is not going to be made worse by showing it to other talented motion designers, getting comments, and not that you have to take everything on board, but at least doing a revision of it. So, who said writing is rewriting, or
I know the quote, but I don't know who said that.
someone
Could have been
someone said
Hemingway,
it.
for all I
Someone
know.
could have been Hemingway. Could have been that bird who wrote 50 Shades of Grey. Who knows? But it's a quote, so therefore it
I
must be
suspect it's
intelligent.
William Faulkner, but I don't know.
Okay, I don't know. If only we had something we could check. But yeah, the point is, you do the first draft, and then you get comments, and you do another draft, and then you get comments, and at some point you stop because you've only got so much time or money or both. You're looking at that quote now, aren't you?
I am. It
Yeah.
is Hemingway.
It is Hemingway. Yeah.
The only kind of writing is rewriting.
Was it the only kind of writing? Yeah, I thought it was writing. Writing history anyway. But yeah, the point is, you're, the work's only going to get better when you do comments, and that's why a lot of the work that I wouldn't say I'm proud of. Some of the best work I've done has been for clients, because I've got notes, and if you've got a decent client or a decent boss, sometimes those notes are good, and you're annoyed. You're like, oh god, I spent ages, and bust my ass getting this done. But then you're like, the next day you look at it, you're like, okay, maybe they had a point. I should do this or this. There's a thing of sort of, you get to the finishing line. No one wants to get to the finishing line and be, of a marathon, say, and be told that was a really, really great effort. Well done. Fortunately, we messed up the course, and there's another mile left. But you're doing so well. No, go on. Like, you can do it. Here, have a little bit of, have one of those fancy.
What is your point?
Energy gels. It's my point. Well, apart from having an amazing marathon analogy, is. There is sometimes people, and we've had this with students, like they
What
you know,
is
they
your
do
point? Tell me the point.
I'm literally getting to the point. If you just let me, right. So sometimes students will hand in work, and you'll give them feedback, and they're just so exhausted or sort of, proud of having done this finished piece of work that they don't do the second version. And you just really wish that they'd, because you're like, it's so close to being really good. Like, and
in your opinion, that's the thing. I think that's why they don't do it. I think that's why, because they're like, that's what you.
Well, they are paying for a course where we're teaching them, so people should listen to it. And surely it's us. We're definitely not the best tutors in the world, and it's not the best course in the world. But we are the ones who are there in front of them, giving them feedback. And there are some things. It's not all subjective. Like, there are things which are just objectively like this. This can only be improved by you removing a flash frame of, a penis or something. Okay, so look, that is egregious. That's wrong. We can all agree that's wrong. Remove it. Nice Fight Club reference, but no, just remove that. And and at some point there are going to be some things which are subjective. But let's face it, if you're just learning, most of the feedback you get from someone who is more experienced than you is going to improve it. But get a second opinion. If you want to do that, get a second opinion. Show it to more than one person.
That's one of the skills that people need to learn, is how to receive feedback and how to fucking listen to it. Because people don't. I didn't when I was younger. I was like, whatever, man. But the thing is that good feedback hurts. Because they're right. That's the thing. And I mean, especially with branding or commercial stuff. If the client doesn't like it, tough. If it's off-brand, though, that's on you. And I kind of think that that's maybe something that would help people before they went into trying to get freelance work. Someone who's self-taught will not get that.
And this is how it works, isn't it? You put your hand up and you've got a question.
All right.
Point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what about the talking stick? Have you got the talking stick?
I've got the conch. This is the conch. Okay, so little literary reference for those book fans out there. Yeah. So I've seen YouTube videos where the person feeds back on some material, naming no names. But I think the advice is too nice, to the detriment of being sort of helpful. It's more like, well, cut this, cut that. This is amazing, blah, blah, blah. I don't think you don't have to be cruel, but I think you can be a bit more brutal and a bit more sort of honest, and kind of go, look, this can be improved with a little bit of work. The amount of time it would take you to improve this bit of work, it's not really worth it. So ditch it. And I think that's something I could see us doing on the channel, is giving showreel advice where it's a bit more sort of
realistically harsh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So to explain this to anyone, the three people that might watch this, Adam and I tend to go into good cop, bad cop mode. And while I am normally a bit of an arsehole as a tutor, Adam, for some reason, goes into full-on client mode, while I'm like, wow, I'm so proud our students are making such good work. And he's like, no, hang on a minute. I told you to kern that proper. Is that optical kerning? Like literally, he would pick nits off a gorilla's head. Look, here, hold this baby gorilla. He'd be like, look, I told you, they're riddled. That's you, that is.
But you're not doing... I just don't think you're doing people any favors by sugarcoating it. So you wouldn't get that from a client. You wouldn't get that from a client, and you wouldn't get that from a sort of realistic boss. It doesn't. It doesn't mean you don't have to make someone cry, but you're saving them time. You're potentially saving them time. So, and you shouldn't be. You shouldn't be in the business of presenting work, putting yourself out there. If all you want is approbation, there's a place for that. It's called Instagram, and block people when you don't like what to say to you. Fine, go for it. But if you want to get better, and
it's
and
the
by the way,
fastest way. It's the
Yeah,
fastest way of improving is getting feedback, listening to it, and changing your fucking work. You know,
yeah.
like
And
there's no way around that.
do you know what? That's and unless you have any other points, I think that's a good way to wrap up this
Yeah,
our first video.
yeah.
Actually, you know,
I
get the feedback. You know,
Yeah,
what do you reckon?
you can join our course and get feedback from us. But I'm pretty sure, having watched this, you probably can't stand us. And yeah, it's probably not going to do
I'd
any.
be I'd be absolutely amazed if anyone signed up to our course after watching this video, and I'd be amazed if we didn't get a phone call from one of our bosses wanting to have a quiet word about our online
Wait, you
content.
said we
But you
should
know,
promote the school.
yeah, yeah. Like this is what you wanted, isn't it? Like, is this what you had in mind? No, sorry.
This is a good
Okay,
point to
right.
like
Well,
fade out the audio, isn't it? All right.
yeah.
Well, if anyone did watch this, I hope this was in any way useful, hopeful, hopeless.
Hopeful.
Yeah.
I hope you feel hopeless after watching this
I
video.
hope you feel hopeless. And on that note, everyone, thanks very much for watching. I'm going to end the stream now. All right. Goodbye from me.
Tatty bye.